So Dana was in a pretty mean-spirited mood after UFC 304.
Bilal Muhammad's new welterweight champion. Curious your thoughts on the main event.
Wasn't a barn burner.
The card wasn't a very exciting affair, and as a result, Dana vowed to never raise bonuses again before an event.
You know, every time you get on a press conference, the fighters manage to get you to up the bonuses. Do you think there's an argument that maybe you should just up them to...
I think tonight showed that we should not. No, upping them doesn't change anything. It doesn't make anybody fight any harder. It doesn't change anything. I'm not doing this again, ever. Today was the last day that I'm doing that. Not saying that in the future the bonuses couldn't get up, but I'm not gonna be at a press conference and say 200, 300, fucking never again. So you can thank everybody on this card for that. Nobody fought any harder. There was no sense of urgency.
I kind of agree with him here, actually. I don't think you should raise bonuses ahead of certain events just because someone asks him at a press conference. If you're going to give out special bonuses like that, it should probably be done for special performances, so retrospectively. But his rant was so mean-spirited that I do want to take a look at just how miserly and stingy the bonus situation has become over the years. I agree with him not wanting to raise bonuses at pre-fight press conferences, but I think there's a very strong argument that bonuses are long overdue a raise across the board. The UFC capped their performance bonuses at $50,000 in 2013. This was a significant move because prior to that, the bonuses fluctuated depending on the event, the performances of the fighters, and on the whims of Dana White. On average, bonuses tended to be more than $50,000. Sometimes they were way more. I mean, Diego Sanchez and Martin Kampmann made $160,000 each for Fight of the Night in 2011. If you take a look at what fighters were generally awarded in 2011 and 2012, it was often in the $60,000 or $70,000 range. So when the UFC decided to cap these bonuses at $50,000, they essentially set them on the lower end of what fighters were previously being awarded. So fighters lost out immediately. But it wasn't that bad. $50,000 was still good money at the time. But now you factor in inflation. Since the bonuses were capped at $50,000, they haven't once been adjusted for inflation. So the value of these bonuses has dwindled over time. If we factor that in, $50,000 today is equivalent to roughly $37,000 in 2013. The actual purchasing power of these bonuses has decreased into the 30s, and that is miserable. So now, if you take another look at this image, you'll see that the lowest bonuses in this period were $40,000 for the finales of The Ultimate Fighter. These were the least prestigious events they could put on, and they were awarded $40,000. But even those $40,000 bonuses are worth more than $50,000 today when you factor in inflation. Tough finales in 2012 were getting higher bonuses than numbered pay-per-view events in 2024. So the fighters were lowballed the day the bonuses were set, and they've been losing steam every year since due to inflation, leading to what is now, 10 years later, a very significant loss in the value of those bonuses. Like, these bonuses have been decimated.
They all won $50,000.
And while the bonuses have diminished, the organization itself has been thriving. Over the last decade, ticket prices have skyrocketed, especially since COVID, and the UFC has consistently posted record-breaking financial results year after year. In terms of tickets, I want to compare like with like. UFC 304 was the most recent pay-per-view in Manchester. UFC 204 was also a pay-per-view event in Manchester in 2016, before ticket prices exploded. Now, 304 had 2 title fights, but in terms of the Manchester crowd buying the tickets, 204 had a lot going for it. Manchester's own Michael Bisping.
I mean, it's no secret, Bisping is the godfather of UK MMA. He inspired us, guys.
The biggest star to ever come out of the UK, who had just won the belt in a massive Cinderella story, would be defending his belt in a grudge match against the legendary Dan Henderson, who had turned Bisping into a fucking meme at UFC 100. Hendo's best days were behind him, and he wasn't a worthy contender. But he was a dog till the end, and a verifiable legend at that point, a huge fan favorite. So just a massive homecoming for Bisping. The whole card might not have been as stacked, but I think comparing 204 and 304 is absolutely fair. UFC 204 had an attendance of 16,000, and the gate was just under $2 million. That's an average of $122 per ticket. UFC 304 had almost 18,000, and the gate was 6.7 million. So the average ticket price for 304 was $375, more than tripled in the last 8 years. If people are willing to pay those prices, they're a fucking business. But I'm just saying, they are skinning fans alive and making a killing in terms of ticket sales.
Sold out. Gate was 16.5 million, third highest gate in UFC history. Gate was 7.25 million, highest grossing gate in the arena's history. We beat the Rolling Stones. They had the record since 2012. Highest attended UFC event in UK history. Gate was 6.72 million, arena gate record.
More importantly, the ESPN deal has allowed them to achieve record year after record year, even in the wake of losing their biggest pay-per-view stars like Brock, Conor, and Ronda. One record year after another. Here's an article on 2023. UFC produced record revenue at $1.3 billion in 2023. The jump in revenue was thanks to a $76.2 million increase in media rights and content fees, a $42.6 million increase in live events revenue, that's the crazy ticket prices, and a $29.5 million increase in sponsorship revenue.
And that's one of the biggest pieces of growth for the company has been sponsorship. It's massive.
And as we know, fighters were stopped from getting their own slice of the sponsorship pie with the Reebok deal.
Ariel Helwani in New York City following the UFC and Reebok press conference alongside UFC President Dana White.
It's the largest non-broadcast deal we've ever done. We've got some pretty big sponsors and we've done some pretty big deals. This is the biggest by far.
You say that all the money, all the revenue is going to the fighters. I'm assuming UFC will make money off of it as well. So how do you divvy that up?
UFC won't make a dime off this.
A dime?
Not one penny. I guarantee you the up-and-comers and the guys who are walking in the door the first time, this is more money than they would have got.
For the UFC, fighters can't have independent sponsors when they walk into the cage now, and financially it seems to be a huge disaster for the fighters. It's not good. It's great to have a big sponsor like Reebok involved, but not if the fighters have to suffer.
You know, Tim Kennedy did a tweet today, and he said he was getting $2,500 or something for his, and that's the only sponsor that you're allowed to have. You know.
Well, Brennan Schaub said he would be getting $10,000, but every single fight that he had before this, he was getting six figures, is what he said, at least $100,000 for every fight. So 6 figures for every fight, and then now he's making $10,000.
And it's based off the ranking, you know. So if you're Chris Weidman's going to get more money than that.
Well, even the champs get $40,000. The best guys in the world get $40,000. That doesn't seem like enough to me.
No,
it just doesn't
seem right.
I don't like when I see fighters suffering financially. I don't like it.
So it's just been death by 1,000 cuts for the fighters. So when you look at the dwindling of the bonus's purchasing power over the years, it's significant. But when you place that $37,000 figure against a backdrop of record year after record year, skinning fans alive for ticket prices, breaking gate records at every venue they visit, the $37,000 really looks pathetic. It's a $37,000 slap in the fucking face when viewed in light of the UFC's shocking growth over the same period, on every front. And you know, the whole point of Dana's argument is totally unreasonable. He feels that bonuses should incentivize fighters to be more exciting and take risks.
Upping them doesn't change anything. It doesn't make anybody fight any harder. It doesn't change anything. I'm not doing this again. Nobody fought any harder. There was no sense of urgency. Holy shit, I want the 100,000. 7 straight fucking decisions. Yeah, the 100,000 was a real big fucking woohoo. Let's get it, boys. Fuck that shit. Never again.
But the reality of how UFC contracts are structured completely discourages risk-taking at every level. A typical UFC contract splits a fighter's purse into 2 parts: show money and win money. Show money is the guaranteed money a fighter receives for just stepping in the cage, while the win money is only awarded if they win. Win and show money are often equal, meaning if you lose half your fucking money.
the performance bonus, even though I've gotten a few and it's made my life a lot better, I'm not so much a fan of that. Like, again, that's a subjective thing. I like to take as much subjectiveness out of this as possible, right? I think like we should all get, in a perfect world, we all get a flat pay. It shouldn't be a show and win.
Yes.
Like, I got half of the pay last weekend. Was there a loser in that fight? You know, even if they gave it to me, which I should have, and Barberina walks away with half, he didn't deserve half of his pay. He deserved his full pay. You know, you show up, you make weight, you put on a good fight, like things happen. You know, this sport, I mean, you do all this work, all this training, preparation, the sacrifice, the grind, and then you go out there and some bullshit happens. I mean, how often have we seen like some fluke shit happen in the sport? It's a almost like weekly occurrence in the sport, right?
Right.
And, you know, and now that you just lost half your pay for that.
It's crazy. And it's crazy that...
Or judges, you know, or bad judging, you know, that you lose half your pay because of bad judging, which has happened to me more than once now.
Here's the payout from UFC 298. Look at Ian Gary, $110,000. But if he lost, he was getting $55,000. You can see this win money structure puts huge pressure on fighters to prioritize winning over chasing bonuses. Performance bonuses are not guaranteed. A fighter might deliver an incredible performance, but still not receive a bonus. An exciting performance enters you into a lottery. A win guarantees you your win money. So these guys are incentivized to win at all costs. The best thing Dana could do to financially incentivize risk-taking would be to remove the vicious win money element to fighters' contracts. Imagine you were in a barn burner. You put on a show for the fans and the UFC, but you get knocked out. And so you wake up thinking, not only did I get knocked out, I just lost half my fucking money. Honestly, it's a vicious pay structure when you think about it. Imagine how disappointed some of these guys are leaving the arena having gone out in their shield. But even beyond that, in the long-term view of your career goals, they have to put together a win streak to get a shot, again emphasizing the importance of winning. And if they do snap up a belt, well, at that point, as a champion, they have never in their entire careers been more heavily incentivized to win at all costs, to hold on to the pay-per-view cut that comes with the belt. The difference in pay between a champion getting a pay-per-view cut and a former champion not getting a cut is night and day. So Dana can say whatever he wants about the of-the-night bonuses. As long as the contracts are written in this win show money manner, and the only fighters generally getting pay-per-view points are champions, then the entire nature of the pay structure in the UFC discourages risk-taking. There are probably a lot of lower-level fighters who are going into events thinking, if I don't win, I might have to look at getting a part-time job. Obviously, the only real incentive to being exciting is that it might make you a fan favorite, which could see you jumping the queue to big opportunities based on your style. But outside that, exciting fighters are exciting despite the UFC's pay structure, not because of it. So his whole thing is bullshit. But the worst part of it was that he tried to pin it on the fighters, blame them.
Never again. So you can thank everybody on this card for that.
He's acting like he thought if he threw an extra $50,000, people would be losing their minds. It'd be like something out of Mad Max. Blame these guys. You know, he's trying to rally people against these fighters. You know, if you want to complain about bonuses, don't talk to me. I was happy to raise them. Send your complaints and grievances to Molly McCann.
You can thank everybody on this card for that.
I think it's likely that Dana just doesn't like the trend of being put on the spot by fighters in front of a live crowd at the pre-fight press conferences.
But I'm not going to be at a press conference and say 200, 300, fucking.
At UFC 300, he seemed happy to do it. You know, he was caught up in the scale of the event.
And they also said for this special event, they would love to see the bonuses raised from $50,000.
What should it be raised to?
300. 300.
300.
300. It's done.
Oh, let's go. Dana, 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 Dana.
At UFC 304, he didn't quite seem to have the same enthusiasm.
Uncle Dana, let's spice it up a little bit. Can we get 100 G's for it? We're not gonna do it. Can we get 100?
Here we go.
Can we get 100?
Let's go.
Let's spice it up a little bit.
Oh, that's good.
Leon says yes.
Let's go.
I'd imagine after 304's press conference, He was probably thinking, I don't like this dynamic of fighters calling for it in front of a live crowd. It puts a lot of pressure on him, and it looks like it was becoming a trend. Some fighter is going to do this at every press conference if Dana continues to give in. So this trend was either going to force Dana to continue to up the bonuses, or it's going to force Dana to be the bad guy and deny the request in front of a live crowd. So it was kind of an uncomfortable predicament for him. So now he comes out after this event furious, and he has his excuse. Don't look at me, blame these worthless motherfuckers. So now next time there's a press conference and some fighter appeals to the crowd for bigger bonuses, Dana can just roll that out. Never. I said I'm never doing this again. It doesn't work. It doesn't incentivize the fighters. I'm not upping the bonuses before the fight. And if you want to blame anyone, blame those miserable, horrible motherfuckers in Manchester. It's the fighters' fault for not laying their lives on the line for an extra $50,000 that one time when they fought in the middle of the fucking night. So it's just miserable. And like I said, I agree with him. I think he should nip it in the bud. He should have just said it's not a good way to reward performances. To be fair, 7 straight decisions is a lot. But you can't complain about the main event. I mean, they booked Leon versus Bilal. What did he expect? And, I initially thought that the time of the card was probably a bigger deal for fans than it was for fighters. I mean, if you've got a couple months to prepare for a fight in the middle of the night, I'd imagine most fighters will adjust their circadian rhythm. But Tom Aspinall and Leon Edwards did describe some issues.
I changed my sleep pattern over the last couple of weeks. Started sleeping at like 4 a.m, like as late as I could. And then last night I thought, right, I'm just going to get a normal night's sleep now. I'm going to go to bed like midnight, get up like 7 or 8 o'clock. Then I'm going to get like a big nap in the afternoon. Mate, there is no chance I could nap. I was so nervous all day. I was literally just lay there thinking of a million different ways about how this fight's going to go. So at this point, I've literally been awake for about 24 hours. I'm pretty tired.
Well, I'm not surprised that my body just felt tired, from round 1. All week I've been feeling I'm just tired from the timing, but...
Who gives a fuck? It's fucking 7 o'clock in Vegas, so...
And if you look at the card from the UFC's perspective, there would have been 2 fighters that they would have been praying put on exciting star-making performances. And those are the 2 fighters with the most potential upside as future stars, Paddy Pimblett and Tom Aspinall. And those guys absolutely nailed it. The event was a big win for the UFC with respect to those 2. Especially Pimblett. I mean, that guy needed something like this. So it seems to me the event wasn't great for fans. But it's not like it was horrible for the UFC, and the fighters were fighting in less than ideal circumstances. So as I said, it just seems Dana was looking for a way to halt the trend of raising bonuses on the spot, without directly facing criticism himself, redirecting the blame.
You can thank everybody on this card.
One last point I want to make is that Dana almost made it sound like he got ripped off, like it was a scam. I want to go back to this image once more. I already discussed what inflation has done to the $50,000. But if you go the other way, if you bring these bonuses from 2011 forward, most of them are in the $80,000 and $90,000 ranges. $70,000 in 2011 is worth almost $100,000 in 2024. So bonuses in the region of $100,000 were totally normal 11 or 12 years ago, when the company was far smaller and much less profitable. Now he does one bonus in this range, and when the fighters aren't being carried out in coffins, he's throwing a tantrum and tossing the fighters under the bus.
Nobody fought any harder. There was no sense of urgency. Holy shit, I want the 100,000. 7 straight. Who gives a fuck?
I know this is only a tiny part of the much larger discussion on fighter pay, and actually these are discretionary bonuses. So they're not even really a relevant part of that discussion. And I wouldn't even really be in favor of adjusting the bonuses for inflation. I think the fighters would be far better served and more incentivized to take risks if the UFC just guaranteed their whole purse. I'm surprised that's even legal. So I don't see bonuses as a massive thing, but I really thought Dana was so mean-spirited and miserable that it was worth pointing out just how stingy bonuses have become. There's been a lot of goodwill for Dana with respect to the subject of bonuses recently.
Dana, 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 Dana.
But I feel like the reality of the bonuses is actually an indictment and a small part of the death by 1,000 cuts.